Hi, this is Tom Dreesen, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with my pal, Sal, and no one does it better.
I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV mobile studio. That's AAMP TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. UppercutChops.com. Check them out at UppercutChops.com for your latest availability of prime USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you see their best-in-class New York steaks. You want to bite into it. Of course, those ribeyes and, of course, the filet mignon. Hell, even those prime Angus and Wagyu burgers, best I've ever seen, best I've ever had, and frankly, probably be the best you've ever had. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com, or give them a call and find out what's for dinner. 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Let's round of applause for them. A super applause for Super Steaks and Super Chops. And a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and our independents from coast to coast, plus everybody on TV, Hotel TV, in over 500,000 rooms, and all of our affiliates with Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television. Folks, we are joined by a very special guest. In fact, let's let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Brad Pitt, and hi, I'm Tom Dreesen, and Sal, this is the highlight of my career. It's all downhill after this.
Yeah, okay, sure it is. Sure, folks, in case you don't know who this guy is, so let me just take this off of TomDreesen.com. Make sure you go there at some point. TomDreesen.com. That's DREESEN.com. So here, this is a little blurb off the site. It says, get to know Tom Dreesen. Tom Dreesen has been in show business for over 50 years. Along the way, Tom has made over 500 appearances on national television as a stand-up comedian, including more than 60 appearances on The Tonight Show. And he was one of David Letterman's favorite guests and frequently hosted, believe me, this guy's been around for a minute. He's hosted the show in David Letterman's absence, and in fact, he's also appeared in countless times in Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, Reno, Atlantic City, with artists like Smokey Robinson, the great Smokey Robinson, Liza Minnelli, Sammy Davis, Jr., that is. And for 13 years, he toured the nation as an opening act for the great Frank Sinatra. Oh, yeah. This is the guy, folks, and that's why if you're watching on television right now, you get a chance to see a very cool image behind Tom Dreesen. Tom, again, welcome to the show. Tell everybody about that image behind you.
That's a painting, a famous artist from Buenos Aires named Marcelo Nero. He painted this. All the years I worked with Frank, when we worked at casinos like Caesars, or we were under contract with 7 different hotels the years I was with him. The MGM Grand, the Desert Inn, the Sands, the Golden Nugget downtown, the Riviera Valleys. I mean, we worked all those hotels. When we worked those hotels, the moment I finished my show, let me digress. When we were in big arenas, when I finished my show, they'd take an intermission and then Frank would come out. But we worked the casinos, there was no intermission. I did my show, I would exit stage right, and Frank would enter stage right. We would crisscross. He'd get to center stage and he'd call me back out for another bow. Tom would come back out and take another bow. And I'd take what they call a half bow. I'd come a halfway and then wave at him, and he would wave at me. Now, that someone took a picture of that. Marcelo Nero painted this picture of me coming back out for an on stage, and Frank bringing me back out. And this painting hangs in my living room. It's a reminder of all the wonderful years I had with Frank in the casinos, and especially there at Caesars and all the other hotels. Anyhow, it was a great time. So that's what that painting is all about.
Well, that's good stuff. And honestly, not many people have had the option or the opportunity to do what you've done, not only once, but for how many years. And think about all the get to know time, right? You have a lot of time to get to know one another and a lot of time to just kind of BS amongst one another, just, as people do. Think about all that time that you've had and how has that shaped your onstage presence? Because Frank's onstage presence was off the charts. How did that help you?
Well, by the time I started touring with Frank, I had done a lot of appearances. As you pointed out, I toured with Sammy, I toured with Smokey, I toured with Gladys Knight, the Pips, I toured with Natalie Cole, I toured with Tony Orlando and Don, with James Darren, with Frankie Avalon. I'm leaving other people out. I toured with a lot of singers. And so I would watch them from the wings. Touring with Sammy Davis Jr. was like going to show business 101. You sat in that wings and watched a grand master. And Frank was the same way. Frank and Sammy did something that, and Dean, by the way, had that little thing. They walked out on stage and they took command immediately. They took command of that stage. The moment they walked out there, that's where they belonged. It was their house and you were in their house. And that's kind of what I grasped from working with Frank. Also, that he was punctual. I never met anybody, except when I was in the service, about punctuality. Frank Sinatra, arguably the greatest career show business has ever known. And we can argue that all day long. Forget about it, he was the greatest pop singer of all time. But he was a great actor. He won the Academy Awards, Grammys, Emmys. Anyhow, but when you asked him to be somewhere, he was never, ever, ever late. Never. He could have played the star role, and been fashionably late like so many of these phonies in Hollywood do. He was never late. He was always on time, and he expected you to be on time. If he said wheels up on that private jet, he said wheels up at 9 o'clock, and you showed up at 9:01, you were watching that plane go down the runway. Because he was never late. He knew his job, and you better know your job. So I learned a lot from personally. I stayed at his home 6 times a year, the compound down in Rancho Mirage, and so he never went to bed till the sun came up, whether we were on the road or off the road. So he would oftentimes come and get me. We'd ride around in the desert till the sun came up. I would drive the car, and so I got to know him. At the first part of it, my years with him, he was the boss of this show, of this tour. He was the boss. He was my boss, because he paid me very well. And after a while, he became my friend, my buddy. We wanted to hang out. He didn't want a fan. He had millions of fans. He wanted a buddy. And toward the end of his life, he was more like a father to me. So that's what I learned from Frank, a lot of fatherly advice.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. I mean, you think about the learning experiences. Me personally, I always think about who has really not only influenced what I'm able to do just in life in general, but who have I looked up to that says, you know what, they're doing it. Those are the people that I want to surround myself with. One of my friends, I chat with online quite a bit and stuff, and I've talked quite a bit on the telephone with, is a former WNBA star, and just a really, really good soul, a good human. And I even sent a message today saying, look, surround yourself with winners because winners win, right? And we're like-minded. I like to be around people that have winning attitudes and they're doing the right thing. They don't make excuses. They don't say, well, I could have done this. Look, never mind the procrastination game, folks. If you're going to be in that procrastination rodeo, do us a favor and don't bother contacting me because I want no part of that. I don't want to be a part of I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Tom, as we go through this today and frankly through your career, you are not that I shoulda, woulda, coulda. You've already done it. And what a great experience. I mean, decades and decades and decades on television, on stage. Tell the audience the worst thing that can happen when you're on stage. The worst thing.
For the comedian, the audience isn't laughing. That's the worst thing that could ever happen on stage. Or for you to take I think it was Will Rogers once said, a comedian can last only as long, a comedian can last until he starts taking himself too serious or the audience starts taking him too serious, him or her, and that, that's what I say is the worst thing can happen. I want to digress about something you were talking about your WNBA friend. My mother had an 8th grade education, but she had this great philosophy on life. She once said to me, "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you what you are." And so I always thought that was so silly. Now I realize what it was. It was surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people who want to succeed. Surround yourself with people who encourage you. Successful people want you too to become a success. Successful people want you to become a success. Don't hang around with people who belittle your ambitions. Hang around with people who want you also to become a success.
Absolutely. And look, as we close this segment out, folks, you're going to have to stick around with us. Tom's going to be with us for a while today. If you surround yourself with winners, eventually you'll win. It's contagious. You don't want to be around people that are going to bring you down and drag you down. And even if something bad is happening on stage, look, it happens on the microphone as well, right? We don't necessarily look in the audience and see nobody smiling or laughing, but we know in our brain we really made some kind of a mistake. And we're like, uh-oh, how are we going to get around this? Maybe we'll have to clean it up in the next segment. Not really sure. But ultimately, folks, we're going to be back here with the great Tom Dreesen in just a few minutes here at the Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this one.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more.
800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. That's 800-957-6209.
You're watching the Sports Circus, and I am Brian Erlacher.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV mobile studio. That's AAMP TV. This segment brought to you in part by our good friend Tom Dreesen. And here to tell you all about Tom Dreesen is Tom Dreesen.
You want me to tell them all about me? I'll tell you how they can find out about me. I just finished a book a while back called, it's of my 52 years in show business. It's called Still Standing. And the subtitle is My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sonata. So it's a retrospective of my life. And Still Standing is a double entendre because I've been a stand-up comedian 52 years, but I also have been knocked down a lot in my life, but I kept getting back up again. Today I'm a stand-up comedian first, last, and always, but I'm also a motivation speaker. I speak on 4 subjects: perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor. And I elaborate on those 4 subjects. And then I have a Q&A with the audience when I'm done. Because I've read literally well over 100 books on the powers of the mind. And, all the way back from Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, to, Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics, Claude Bristol, The Magic of Believing, Joseph Murphy, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, PMA by PMA, Positive Mind Attitude, by Dale Carnegie, Think and Grow Rich. All of those books, and so that's what I now try to implement in my daily life, of course, but also I try to motivate other people to be all they can be.
Okay, so talk a little bit more about motivating people from being all they could be. So let's take a little clip out of your motivational speaking. Let's talk a little bit about that. We'll get to the hecklers on stage and stuff like that in a minute, but what is it that you're conveying to the audience and your audience to say, everybody's different. People are different. But how do you put all of that negative energy or all that procrastination behind you? What advice do you have for people? In 1 minute, what would you tell people? Take a 1 minute clip of your motivational program and talk to the audience.
There's so many things, but I'll try to make this short. At the beginning of the motivation talk, I'll tell them, before this is over, I'm going to tell you the secret. And when it's over, after I talk on those 4 subjects, perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor, I end by telling them, and let me tell you the secret. The secret is you. You're the secret. You can cast out all these negative thoughts. Negative thoughts swirl the universe. We can't help them from entering our minds, but we don't have to let them grow. If you have a flower, if you have a garden, and you're going to plant flowers, positive thoughts. And while you're planting the flowers, weeds grow. Would you allow the weeds to grow? No, you dig them up and replant flowers. You have the power within you to stop the negative thoughts and start practicing positive thoughts. If I were going to ask you to get physically fit, everybody in the country said, I know how to do that. One word, exercise. If I say, I want you to get mentally fit, they go, duh. They start, I say, one word, exercise. You'll exercise the mind the same way you exercise the body. When I was broke, when I was sleeping in an abandoned car, hitchhiking up and down Sunset Boulevard every night, begging to work for free at the Comedy Store, I would walk and jog to Nothing Can Defeat Me. Nothing can defeat me. I would say every morning, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I'd say, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. These are mental exercises. I am well, I am lucky, I am in perfect health. These are mental exercises. I'm a winner. I'm a winner going someplace to happen. You are in power of your own destiny. And then I teach them how to do that through visualization, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Whatever the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. And more, and much more than that.
Well, Tom, you have the ability to convey a message in a very lighthearted way because of your comedic background. So take one of those hypersensitive subjects, and how would you convey that hypersensitivity to somebody through a lighthearted comedic way?
Well, here's something I have fun with. Was at an all-male college a while back, and I was talking to all male students. And then somehow the subject came up about, you remember that guy? He was 32 years old, and he wouldn't leave his parents' home. I don't know if you remember that a while back, but he finally they got to get a court order. They went to court to get him out of the house. So I said to these young boys, how many of you, how long do you think you should live with your parents? And one boy said, till we're 50 or 60 years old. And everybody laughed. And I said, reading. And I laughed too. I said, why do you say that? And then he got serious. He said, because, Mr. Dreesen, we didn't ask to be here. And I said, how many of you believe that? Raise your hand. And a lot of them raised their hand. You didn't ask to be here. I said, I don't want to give you a biology lesson, but when the male and the female make love, from the male comes 5 million seeds. Did you know that? I said 2.5 million die instantly. The other millions die along the way. And soon there's only 100,000 seeds left. Then there's 50,000. Then there's finally only 100 seeds. And pretty soon there's only 5 seeds left. 4, 3, 2, 1, you. And I pointed at all the boys. I said, you. Don't ever tell me you didn't ask to be here. Bull. You fought to be here. And everybody started laughing. I said, yeah, you're a winner. You were born a winner. And that is the biggest problem we have in our society today. You have teachers, college professors teaching these kids, you're victims. You're all victims of this terrible, horrible place called America. You are victims. No, you're not. You're victors. You're victors. You're winners. You were born a winner. 5 million to 1 that you wouldn't be here, but you came here. And you're here now. And you're a winner. And you live in the greatest country on this planet with all the opportunities. Don't let anybody tell you you're a victim. Because if you're a victim, then you're under their control. Only they can help you. You're a victor. You rise above all that. And you can do all it is that you set out to do with a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work and a lot of belief and a lot of faith. And I teach them how to do that.
That's incredible. That's great words of wisdom. I wouldn't have thought of the 5 million to 1 thing, not for a second. But what I will say is that people will blow X amount of money to try to win a lottery ticket. Crazy money, not realizing the long odds that they have to overcome. Oh, by the way, you are already a 5 million to 1 shot just getting here.
But I'm going to tell you something. I don't have a problem with the lottery unless you waste a lot of money. Because the lottery does one thing. It gives you hope. Do you know how many poor people in the world say, I'm going to put this a $6 billion lottery, and they buy that $1 ticket or $5 ticket. But then they say, if I win this, I'm buying grandma a new home, and I'm going to get the kids through college. So for a short period of time, they have hope. They have some hope. And that's what we all need, a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And those of us who found the profession that they love, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I never thought I'd ever be a comedian, but once I became one, I realized how blessed I am that I make my living making people laugh. So I saw George Burns when I was working at Harrah's many years ago with Sammy Davis Jr. George Burns was appearing at Caesars in Lake Tahoe. And I ran over to catch his show one night, and he was 95 years old. He didn't run out to the microphone, but when he got out there, he did a strong hour and 10 minutes. And afterward, I went backstage to say hello to him, and he was looking at some 3x5 cards. I never forget. He was looking at some notes when I walked in, and I said, hey, George, how you doing? He looked up, and he said, oh, hi, Tommy. He said, I was working on some new material tonight. And I said, that's what I want to be, 95 years old, working on new material.
That's good stuff. Well, what's interesting when I'm going to close this segment out with a fun little story here. And so working on new material, and I remember this. One day I was staying, actually it was maybe about a week, I was staying right around the corner from the Laugh Factory off of Sunset, and I want to say it was Laurel Canyon. Anyway, is that right? Laurel, right there. Okay. Yeah, and so I happened, it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I walked from the condos, which was a half a block down on the west side of the street, and I walked down, I'm on Sunset, just kind of meandering my way through. I was like, oh, hey, look, there's the Improv, right? So I walk in, it's kind of a big open space, there's not a lot of seats or anything there, because they had to clean the place out, and there was some wooden booths on the side, and I saw some guy just feverishly writing and really aching. His head was just like, oh God, my head hurts, whatever. But he's trying to come up with some ideas, whatever it was, right? And so the guy turns to me. He looked vaguely familiar. See if I can spit that out. Familiar at a quick glance. I'm like, okay. So he goes, hey kid, come over here, have a seat. I'm like, okay, I'll sit down. So I sit down. I'm like, get the hell out of here. And so the guy goes, tell me what you think of this. And so it's good material. Then tell me what you think of this. Probably for about 20 minutes. And I'm getting a free private show from none other than George Carlin. It was unbelievable. And everybody does it. Look, folks, it doesn't matter if you're the king of the mountain, the queen of the mountain, or somebody looking up at the mountain. Here, the greats of the greats are doing the same exact thing. Tom, just what you said about the cards and writing things out, trying new material out. And I can't believe that I actually had that opportunity, but it was a very cool, impromptu everything. And I just sat back and I drank the Kool-Aid and I said, all right, this is it. I'm going to enjoy this. What a great experience that was for me. How about that for you, that you've been in something like that? Give me 1 minute. 1 minute before we go to break.
First of all, I tell young comedians all the time, it's a conversation, not a presentation. Is it your act? You damn right it's your act. It's your job to make it look like it's not an act. So we write the material, we work on the material, but when you walk out on that stage at night, it's a conversation, not a presentation. It's like your wife says, Sal, we got 20 people in the living room, and I don't have dinner ready yet. Go out there and tell them some of them funny stories about where you were growing up and your mom and your dad. And so you walk into the living room, there's these people, and you say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Dinner's going to be ready in a little while, but I got to tell you, this afternoon I go to the grocery store, and you start doing your funny bits. But it's an act. It's an act, but you got to make it look like it's not an act. It's a conversation, not a pre.
That's right. Tell you what, when we come back from break, we're going to pick up on that. We do have lots of funny stories, folks. Don't go anywhere. Last word to come here with the great Tom Dreesen. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, back here in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
The following is a sample from the Sports Circus.
Because the concept on that was that during I throw a flag downfield for DPI, so to speak.
How far could you throw a flag? What's your record for throwing a flag?
Well, you know what people don't realize.
I know there's beanbags or something.
There's beanbags, marks the spots. Flags, you've got a little sand in it and you roll it up to a little ball to try to get to the record? Spot. People think that you're throwing it a huge distance. You don't have to throw it a huge distance. You just got to get it on the right line.
But do they have like a punt, pass, and kick for flags?
No, but you can throw it 15, 20, 22 yards pretty easy. You can throw it pretty good to get it to the spot.
Have you ever thrown a flag at a player out of frustration?
No. I'll tell you what I did do. Years ago, when I was in high school ball, we used to wear the flag in our back pocket. Most officials wear it down in the front. Yeah, and I went to throw the flag, and at that time, we didn't have all the official supplies like you have now. I used to go to the hardware store and get a fishing weight to put in the yellow flag.
Went to the hardware store.
Imagine how old I am.
You can see how well the NFL really pays well, don't they?
So I had this weight in my flag, and it was in the back, and I was on the wing, and I went to throw it, and it got caught in the back of my pants, and I swung it like this, and it went across, it hit the kid in the helmet. The kid looked at me and said, "Now don't go offsides again." You got to try to cover yourself. But as you guys know, years ago.
Goofiest thing that we ever did was they filled a swimming pool full of Jell-O, and people could pay to watch Gary and I dive into this pool of Jell-O, and he and I raised $100,000 doing that.
Okay. That's hilarious.
That was the goofiest thing I've ever done.
I love that. And at least when you go underwater, you can actually eat Jell-O.
That's right. That's right.
Can you actually swim in Jell-O?
You actually could, because it's so soft in texture that you actually could.
That's ridiculous.
That's funny. Probably the craziest Bill Parcells moment was one day we were getting our butts kicked. We were playing, I forget who we were playing. I forget who, I think it might have been Philadelphia. We came in at halftime, and the room was quiet. The room was stoked quiet. Guys were mad. What's going on? And Parcells comes in the locker room, and he has a garbage can full of garbage. And he takes the garbage can and he dumps it in the middle of the meeting at halftime. And the guys look at each other, and we go, what the hell was that about? The next thing you know, because that's what you guys are playing like. And I might as well leave you right there with it. But that was a quietly kept Parcelldism.
Please visit www.thesportscircus.com for a complete list of featured guests and previous episodes.
Hey, everybody. This is Barry Katz from the Industry Standard Podcast, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with Sal Tuzzolino.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV mobile studio, AAMP TV. This segment brought to you in part by the Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, a prior guest, or recorded shows, which are our podcasts. Yet we don't do a podcast. We do a regular FCC-regulated show, so we can't say all the bad words like they do on podcasts or satellite radio. Nonetheless, make sure you also check out our partners. The partners page has many great organizations, whether they're nonprofits or for-profits. Either way, they've been with us likely since the very beginning. Check them out at thesportscircus.com. Then just click on partners. Lots of them there. One of them is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out for their CSNCoyotes.com events coming up. CSNCoyotes.com. Again, the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Nice round of applause for them. Back here with the great Tom Dreesen on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu all the way to Atlanta, Auburn, Alabama, Southwest Florida, you name it, we're there. You can't get away from us. Also on television, hotel TV, and every Nielsen-rated market, plus Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Wow Cable Television, and Time Warner affiliates from coast to coast. All right, Tom, in the last segment, I don't know where we were going, but we got there because here we are right now, if you know what I mean. So you were telling everybody about the elements of a joke in between segments, and you asked, are we live or are we on? Well, now we are. What are the elements of a joke for the audience that they need to hear?
If you're writing a joke, first of all, if you dissect comedy, it gets boring. But if you're writing a joke, comedy is two things. Number one, it's 9/10 surprise. The audience laughs because they didn't think you were going to say that. So the setup line has to hide the punchline. And the other rule is there are no victimless jokes. Who's the victim? The government, the airlines, you, your daughter, your mother-in-law. Whatever. Somebody's got to be the victim in this joke. Somebody's wrong in the joke. It's all about develop a sense of humor as part of my motivation talk. The greatest gift that God can bestow upon a human being is a sense of humor. And a sense of humor, by my humble definition, is not when you have the ability to laugh at others' shortcomings or misfortunes. It's when you have the ability to laugh at your own. The audience loves it when you poke fun at yourself. The old vaudevillians used to say, when you walk out on stage, the old vaudevillian comedians, the first two jokes are on you. What a jerk you are. How dumb you are. Even if you're not in show business, a great gift is a sense of humor. When you can teach your children a sense of humor. You can show them when you do something wrong that you're human. So children look at parents like they're gods of this universe they're in. They couldn't survive without this God in the universe. But when you come home and tell them about something dumb and stupid you did that day, then they feel it's safe to share the dumb and stupid things they do. And they learn to laugh at themselves. And if psychiatrists could break it down into lay terms, they'd probably tell you the number one problem most of their patients have, we take ourselves too serious. We're not all that important. And the comedian has a great opportunity to walk out on stage and show people, look, I'm just like you. I make mistakes.
So let's think about, okay, in the prior segment, we were talking about the neighborhoods, right? And the neighborhood people. And so the people that are from those kind of extroverted neighborhoods where basically we had chain link fences, if any fences at all, right? So you could see exactly what's going on next door. And if somebody's yelling at somebody or punching someone in the head, like that's what happened in my yard. I mean, all kinds of mayhem happened. And the neighbors knew what to expect from our house. It was always chaotic. But you get thick skin is what I'm saying. In the neighborhood, people had thick skin. So what? So you saw me when I was 5, 6 years old. I'll never forget this. I said a bad word I wasn't supposed to say. I was 5 years old, as a matter of fact. And my mother called everybody in the neighborhood, the parents, the kids. I mean, she literally went calling. When I say call, she knocked on the door. She didn't pick up the phone. No. And she would yell, everybody come here. Never forget this as long as I live. Everybody's there. What's going on? What's happening, right? Barbara's doing something. That was my mom, Barbara. Barbara's doing something. So she called everybody. They're in a big circle, like she's the leader of some big wolf pack or something. What did she do? Because I said something wrong, she pulled my pants down and whooped my ass. Whack, whack, whack. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she didn't waste any time. She wanted to embarrass me thoroughly. And so this is one of those messages that you get. Now you know, don't use the foul language in front of a whole bunch of people, in front of anybody, or better yet, not only are you going to get your mouth washed out with soap, but your pants are coming down and your ass is going to get whooped in front of absolutely everybody. So this happened to me when I was 5 years old, and I'll never, ever forget it. This is what happened in the neighborhoods, folks, that Tom was talking about.
Well, the other thing, too, you just pointed out something that's very unusual. Your mom, in those days, we knew everybody in our neighborhood. And everybody in the neighborhood looked out for everybody in the neighborhood. If somebody fell down, broke their arm, or something, people would bring over apple pies. So whatever it was. But today, people don't know who lives next door to them. We don't know our neighbors anymore like we did in those days. It was great to grow up in those kind of neighborhoods, And here's my point of it all. So your mom pulled your pants down, and she spanked your little bottom. And now, is your mom still alive?
No.
But did you love your mom till the day she died?
Absolutely.
Oh, shit. Then she wasn't a bad woman, wasn't she? You know what I mean? That's my point. Were you traumatized? Did it destroy your life of what she did? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to discipline your children. It means you love them. I don't mean whip them. I don't mean beat them with belts. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about showing them that you care for them by disciplining them. So I'll tell you, as a parent of 3, and now I have grandchildren, but as a parent of 3, it hurt when I had to reprimand them. It hurt me deeply, but I knew I was doing the right thing.
Right. Well, my mother grew up right around 26th in California. So if you know where that is in Chicagoland, it's right by the jail. It's one of the toughest neighborhoods in the entire city. Everybody was scared to death of her. The neighbors were, the teachers were, even at her work. She used to work in the police department. Everybody was scared of her. I saw her when I was probably about 8 years old. She was yelling at the neighbor next door. My sister and I were looking out the window. The neighbor was being rather noisy. And my mother literally walked up to this dude, hauled off, and knocked him out. Just one, done. That dude was out cold. Because I remember this one as well. Look, I could do these all day, but we won't. But I'll tell you this for a reason. Look, my father, growing up on Taylor Street, right here, Al's Beef, Taylor Street, right?
For those who don't know, in Chicago, that was Little Italy, Taylor Street.
That's right. So he grew up on Taylor Street in Little Italy, and my mother right close by 26th in California. The reality is these are the toughest parts of the city, generally speaking, with some of the toughest people. My father was a Marine, and he boxed in the Marines. And I'll never forget this. As a 6-year-old, I'm watching my mom and dad in their room. They're having an argument, and now they're standing toe-to-toe throwing blows like rock'em sock'em robots. And neither of them got hurt. It's just, this is what they did. Not because they grew up in combative households. It's just they were tough. So they brought the tough attitude and the tough skin. So I have thick skin. When I bomb on air or whatever, if I'm in a live setting and I'm blowing it in a live remote, so be it. Get over it. I had to get over it. So Tom, it's the idea of having thick skin and being able to get around maybe crickets in the audience. How did you get around crickets? Because hey, listen, we all hear them at some point, don't we?
Yeah, you at some point in your life, you have to take personal responsibility, and I learned that at an early age. If you're wrong, you're wrong, and I had 8 brothers and sisters. We lived in a shack. 5 of us slept in one bed at one time. We had no bathtub, no shower, no hot water. Raggedy poor. Holes in my shoes, you put cardboard in it. A window broke, you stuck a rag in it. We rarely had meals. And again, no bathtub and no shower, no hot water. We boil water. Now, both my parents at one time were heavy drinkers. If I were to turn out to be a bum, a worthless bum, and the psychologists would probably say, it wasn't his fault, the way he was raised, and the poor guy, BS, it is my fault. At a certain point in my life, I had to take personal responsibility for my life. Again, that's the problem, as I pointed out earlier, with our society today. Everybody's a victim, and if you're a victim, you don't have to rectify it. You're just a victim. It's not your fault, And I say, BS, take personal responsibility, set your goals, see what it is you want to do in life, and then go for it.
Tom, in our last minute of the segment here, this is going by quick. We should be doing a regular show on this. It seems to me that in today's time, we go back to the idea that, and this was a line out of Scent of a Woman, they're trying to, remember with Al Pacino, right? I was going to say Al Capone. With Al Pacino. And he said, we could turn these minnows into men in the Baird school, whatever it was, right? And so what we're doing as a society, we're breeding people that are hypersensitive to everything, and they lost the ability to deal with adversity. How we're even seeing it in baseball in our last 30 seconds here. We're seeing it in baseball, and which drives me crazy. I'm a former ball player. What drives me bananas is here I'm watching a pitching coach or a manager pull a pitcher out of a game because he's got a pitch count that's a certain number. And we have these BS analytics, but they're not letting them face adversity. Kids today don't get to face adversity, and they don't learn how to overcome adversity. So when we come back from the break, which we're going on here in 30 seconds, folks, I want to hear from Tom how he overcame certain adversities in his stand-up career as you get a little bit older, and especially how that transfers to success on television in 500 TV appearances. Don't go anywhere. Back here with the great Tom Dreesen in just a few moments, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
My favorite one had to do with the Green Bay Packers. And I love the fact that they dealt off Ty Montgomery because of a blown assignment. Green Bay isn't Green Bay unless they have a good running game. Then they can win 10 Super Bowls. The fact is, you don't have a running game. You've got 70% passing, and that's not where Aaron Rodgers needs to be. He needs to be in a position where he's got a running game to offset the passing game and so forth. I like the move. Green Bay didn't have a running game anyway, so all they're doing is saying, we're going to get rid of you because you don't follow instructions.
Well, he made one of the most boneheaded plays I've ever seen. There's 2 minutes and 5 seconds on the clock. They traded him on Tuesday.
They should have cut him on Sunday night.
He shouldn't have been on the plane back to Green Bay.
Right, they should have made him walk back to Green Bay.
No, it was a terrible play. Now, he's not a stupid guy. He went to Stanford. He's not a dumb guy.
He's not a dumb guy, but he doesn't follow instructions.
He made a terrible play.
The fact is he didn't follow instructions. And you say he's not a dumb guy. His own agenda he put ahead of his team.
I agree.
Thus, he is a dumb guy. Right or wrong?
Wrong. He just got selfish. You're not going to convince me that a guy from Stanford's a dum-dum.
No!
Yeah, this is Sidney Justin from The Miracles.
So you heard yesterday's show at Roy Firestone. Did you hear a little clip about him going into the office where Smokey was at? And that was really good material, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really funny, man.
Yeah, and then you heard him.
I thought it was hilarious. It was cool, though. It was cool. Really cool story, man. I enjoyed listening to that.
Right, and then he gave a couple of bars. Can you give us a couple of more from Ooh Baby Baby? And let's see if you could do it better than Roy Firestone. Come on, man!
All right, you know what? Why not? I did you wrong. My heart went out to play, but in the game I lost you. What a price to pay. Hey, I'm crying. Ooh, baby, baby. How's that, man?
That's
Is that
incredible,
okay? Is that good enough?
That's incredible.
That's fantastic.
You know why? Because that's what you do. You're in the incredible business, Sid. That's awesome. Yes! Only on the Sports Circus. You're going to get sports. You get music.
Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP TV. Folks, again, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are podcasts. They can be found on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, Google, you name it, you can't get away from us. Also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners on there, great 501c3s. Check them out, folks. I'm not even going to tell you. Just go there, sportscircus.com, then hit the partners page, or you can go to the About page, and you can read about us as well. Anyway, back here with the great Tom Dreesen. And Tom, 13 years opening up for Frank Sinatra, 50 years plus on stage, 500 plus television appearances, 60 appearances, Tonight Show, if I'm not mistaken, filling in for David Letterman. Folks, the list goes on. If I continue on, we'll actually run out of time, and we'll be saying and signing off. So, Tom, welcome back to the show once again. Nice round of applause for you. And we're talking in between segments about neighborhoods and hanging out with people, because it's kind of what we do where we're from. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, what part of the city you're from. We all have the same city type of experiences. And I believe that there are certain parts in America that are missing that neighborhood feel, that neighborhood camaraderie, the neighborhood foods, right? Everybody has their area foods. Me personally, this is one of my personal favorites. These are close friends of mine, and that's Al's Beef, alsbeef.com. Check them out at 1079 West Taylor in Chicago. Best damn Italian beef sandwich I've ever had. Probably be the best you've ever had. And I don't even get paid for saying this. I just dig it. All right. Anyway, Tom, where do we leave off?
But, I don't know where we left off, but I want to say something of why stand-up comedy is the greatest profession on this planet. As I told you earlier, that the greatest gift that God can bestow upon a human being is a sense of humor. And again, the sense of humor is not when you have the ability to laugh at others' shortcomings or misfortunes, you have the ability to laugh at your own. But for a long time, we've always known that laughter is a psychological deterrent. That no one's objected that. 10,000 years ago, the Indian tribes had their medicine man made people laugh. He would be like a clown. So we've always known that laughter is healing. It used to be a theory. It's not anymore. That laughter is psychologically a deterrent. If the brain can't think of two thoughts at the same time. So if a person is watching a comedian or listening to a comedy album, they're not thinking about their problems. They're laughing. So it's a psychological deterrent. But also, because of a guy named Norman Cousins, he wrote 3 books, but 2 of them were like Laughter Math, and the other one's called The Anatomy of an Illness. He was the editor of Saturday Review, and he had a heart condition, and he was dying. He was in the hospital, and the doctors told him he's going to die. And they told him it was because of negative input stress that created this heart element. So he laid in the hospital, and he thought, if negative input made me ill, then positive input should make me well. So he checked out of the hospital, and he would only watch I Love Lucy reruns, Candy Camera, Three Stooges, The Marx Brothers. He wouldn't watch any evening news. He lived 27 years after the doctors told him he's going to die. Because of him, UCLA did research on what happens to the human body when it laughs. And you have a hearty laugh, and after that laugh, you go, oh, and the sense of well-being comes over you, is because your body has gone through an actual chemical change. That when you laugh heartily like that, endorphins are released from the brain into the bloodstream. So laughter is not only psychologically a deterrent, it's physiologically therapeutic. So therefore, comedians are physicians of the soul. So you can call me Dr. Dreesen if you'd like.
Dr. Dreesen. Dr. Dreesen with us. Check him out, by the way, at Tom Dreesen, DREESEN.com. You can read all about Tom. The guy's been in the rodeo for a long time. Tom, I have to ask you this, and I forgot to ask you this last time you were on the program. So look, being a guest, and now I can relate partially to this. Being a guest on a program is one thing, whether it's television, radio, whatever the hell it is, right? Radio is theater of the mind, which sometimes is a little bit more difficult, right? Because there's no facial expressions that come across. It's just your own abilities. But being a guest on a program is one thing, but what about, so let's just say you were a guest on The Tonight Show, which is great, supersonic great. But then, oh, by the way, Tom, we want you to fill in and you're going to host the show. It's a completely different element of being one of versus one. Tell everybody about your first experience and how you handled that.
Well, I hosted little local shows sometimes. In Chicago, at one time, they had a pilot of me doing 5 nights. I took over Oprah Winfrey's studio. She was on hiatus. And ABC, a guy named Joe Ahern, the president of ABC, gave me my own late night show following Nightline just for an experiment. And it went very, very well. We actually did real well in the ratings. It's a long story, but anyhow. But then, and that was fun. Because then, again, as a host, as you know, what you're doing right now, I had to lead my guests into stories that they thought were poignant or funny. And if they didn't, then you would fill in somewhere. When I hosted the David Letterman show, that was a different ballgame. To me, it was a little more pressure because this was David's show. And those people came in that audience to see David. They had signed up for tickets for months in advance, didn't know that he'd be ill at the time. So when you walk out, you got to do something to get them right now. So when I walked out on David's show to host the show, and they were, ladies and gentlemen, the David Letterman show, David's guest host tonight is Tom Dreesen, and welcome, Tom Dreesen. I walked out, and the people applauding, and I said, how many of you out there, be honest now, how many of you out there were still hoping Dave was coming out? And applaud. And of course they applauded. And I said, I know how you feel. I'm a little bit disappointed myself, But
right.
The joke is on me,
Well, and see, the reason I ask about this, the reason I ask is because it's real easy being one of a group that's on air. But when you are the center point, and maybe you're filling in, and like in your situation, people are looking for David, but David's not there. And now it's Tom. Now you've got to bedazzle the crowd in a similar fashion, but different. How do you differentiate yourself?
See, in acting, I studied acting in Chicago and in LA. So I've done film. I've acted in film and sitcoms and Murder, She Wrote and Columbos and stuff like that. But in acting, there's a fourth wall, the imaginary fourth wall. When you're acting, you've got upstage, that's a wall. Stage left, stage right, those are walls. And then there's a wall between you and the audience while I'm holding my brother's head in my arms and I'm sobbing because he's dying. Whatever. They're not there, the audience. They're not there. There's a imaginary fourth wall. But when you're a stand-up comedian or a host, that wall comes down. So the first thing you do is you talk to the people. You get in touch with the audience. Make them a part of it. This isn't me pontificating. You're with me in on this. We're all in on this. Guess who our guest is? Guess who's coming out? And I'm going to enjoy them as much as you are. You make yourself a part. Anyhow, if you can do that.
Well, I think about the idea that if you are a part of a show in the first place, you've earned it. Somehow, some way, you put yourself in a position to be on a show or to be interviewed or whatever the heck it is. And so somebody believes that you're worthy enough to be there. So therefore, if the audience is there, look, there's going to be a level of professionalism that they're going to expect. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. That's why I always tell people on this program, it's live, folks. Anything could happen, because truly anything could happen. Power could go out. I told you a little bit about a story I had when Lee Steinberg came out of the show. The first time, the power went out in the building. And I was like, what do we do? Right? Improvise. Luckily, I was able to improvise. And anyway, we got through it. But at the end of the day, you still are good enough to be there, but you've got to be even better to be able to get through those unforeseen issues. So now, listen, we've got about 3 minutes left. Take 1 minute and talk to me about an unforeseen issue that has happened while you were on stage or on a live TV set and you didn't know what to do.
Well, that's rarely happened to me, but what happens sometimes is you go up on your lines. It's what they say, you forget your next line. First of all, let me digress. Prepare. And, if you're totally prepared, you can ad-lib within the confines of that. So you don't go out there and try to wing it. You better know what you're doing. You better, prepare. And that's what we as comedians do and singers do as well. So if you, years ago, there was a guy named Maury Amsterdam. He used to be on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Maury Amsterdam was a comedy writer and a very good one. He once told me that he prepared John F. Kennedy for the debates with Richard Nixon, the first television debates of two presidents, two guys running for president. And he told John Kennedy, if you're thrown a question and you can't think of the answer, just start talking and your brain will catch up. And John Kennedy, if you remember, if you ever watch those lectures, the guy would say, and Mr. Senator Kennedy, what are you going to do about such and such? And he'd say, that's a very good question, Mr. Chairman. And let me say this about that. He was started talking and his brain would catch, as opposed to they ask you a question and you go, you start trying to think. Just start talking. Same thing happens in comedy. If I'm on stage and maybe something happens in the audience that distracts me from where I was going, I'll relate to that, but then I'll just keep talking and my brain will catch up. That's I remember one night at the Tonight Show, I forgot what it was that happened, but I walked out and something that I had always got a laugh from when I was rehearsing for this night, always got a good laugh. On the Tonight Show, it didn't get a laugh. And it threw me for a second. So now my brain forgot where I was going, because usually you think of your next line during the laugh. And now, so I remember what Maury Amsterdam taught me, and I started talking. I said, anyhow, it's great to be here on the Tonight Show. It seems like they're always polishing this floor here. Oh, marijuana. And then I went into my next joke, my brain caught up.
Right. All right. Hey, listen, Tom, we are running on time here. So tell everybody how they could follow you, maybe where you're appearing. Take a quick 30 seconds to talk about that.
I'm going around the country doing a show called The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh. It's a 90-minute show of stand-up comedy and storytelling. And you can find that on my website. I'll be doing it in Richmond, Virginia, Joliet, Illinois, and I'm doing all that. And then I'm also giving a big motivation speech at the Comedy Store, the world-famous Comedy Store in Hollywood, on April 22nd. And everybody's invited, people from all walks of life, but a lot of people in our industry, writers, producers, directors, actors will be there. So it's going to be a fun afternoon, a Sunday afternoon. And I'm writing, and there's a documentary coming out on my life from my book. My book is called Still Standing. You can get it on Amazon. It's got over 465 five-star reviews. I know it sounds like bragging, but I'm very proud of that book because it's my life, and it's triumphant, and it's for people who struggling in life. I did too, but all my dreams came true. All my prayers were answered. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
I don't think luck has a lot to do with it. Perseverance has a lot to do with it. And guess what, Tom? You have earned it. Nice round of applause for the great Tom Dreesen. And Tom, we're going to bring you back. Of course, we talked about this before. Now we're going to, because we have a better setup now, and we have a lot more freedom in the programming. So guess what, Tom? Always a pleasure. We'll look forward to having you right back here on The Circus. And folks, everybody else just tuning in, you just missed out. Go back to thesportscircus.com, replay the episode. And if you're on Facebook as well, you could do that there too. For the great Tom Dreesen, I am your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. So until then, so long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.